again, this is very simplified. There's a lot more behind this, so I'm sure there are experts on this call that know more about it than I do. Um, so, um, but basically, there's a lot of data in the public domain right now. And what artificial intelligence does, it combs through that data and identifies patterns and relationships. And based on those patterns and relationships, there are models that are developed. And it is those models that we are actually engaging with in the AI tools that are out there. So you put some prompt in, the model uses those patterns to generate the output, and then there's a feedback loop because these models they're not perfect. And so there is in behind the scenes a feedback loop so that based on the output and based on the different prompts that are put in, the models get better and better as time goes on. Next slide, please. So what can generative AI create? So it can create text, and we'll see an example of that in the demo. It can create images, um, audio, video, and you might have seen an example of a video that was generated from AI in the WhatsApp as part of promoting this, and we'll also see an example later in this demo, and 3D models as well. Next slide. So some common AI tools that are out there, ChatGPT, everyone's heard of, Google Bard, Google Gemini, and there's a bunch of other things that are out there that are tools that is available. Next slide. And this slide lists out the visual tools. So in the previous slide, it was more like generating text, and this is more about generating images, music, videos. So next slide. So how can generative AI help you? So some practical ways, and this is just to start inspiring you, and hopefully the demos at the end will continue inspiring you. So you can boost your creativity, save time, you can personalize content, learn new skills, and increase your accessibility. Next slide. So getting started. As I mentioned, there's plenty of tools out there. Like, for example, Google Gemini, you'll see is a free tool. All you need is a Google account for that, and start experimenting. And there's plenty of resources out there to help you. And again, the intent here is to inspire folks to start experimenting. And yeah, it's a great resource that's out there. Next slide. So as with anything, there's pros and cons, good and bad. So the good stuff about AI, so it makes life easier, and all around us we have AI around us, right? The Alexa, the Siri on our phones, that's all using AI. AI is also it can be a good learning buddy. So especially for the younger people in the audience, if you're stuck on some assignment that you're working on, it's a good way to learn, right? And to list out steps of how to solve a problem. And games have AI embedded in them as well. And it's becoming very common in the industry, in my industry, in the pharmaceutical industry, medical, automobile industry, energy industry, and every industry you name it, AI is becoming more and more prominent. So it's definitely the good stuff is it can definitely there's a place for AI to help us learn and be more productive. So next slide. So things we should be careful about. We should be careful about, I mentioned the data that goes into the models, and it's basically based on what is publicly out there, and it's not vetted, right? So some of the output can be biased or skewed one way or the other. Privacy it can be a concern, right? So be careful about what you put in AI. Don't put super sensitive information in AI unless you're confident about the security of that tool you're working with. Uh, AI is not perfect, as I mentioned. It can make mistakes. So it's very important that if you use AI for anything, that you double check the output, make sure it makes sense, make sure it is correct. The intent is to help your productivity. It's not, but at the same time, you'll have to put in a little bit of time to review the work. And be careful. It's all based on how the model is, right? So sometimes it can be a black box. And again, that goes back to double checking the output of the work. Next slide. So technology and faith, and this is very related to Achin's opening prayer that he opened with. Technology should be used for the good, right? And like with anything, it all depends on how you use something, whether it's a technology, whether it's something else. And if, the wisdom of the church fathers is evergreen, right? And many of the church fathers existed before technology, but their wisdom definitely applies to all sorts of things. And uh, I just selected a few quotes here that sort of emphasize the fact that technology should be used in a good way. There's good and bad. Always go for the good. Um, Always be sure, in St. John Chrysostom's quote, always be sure that you're using your brain, right? Your skills are important. Don't use AI as a excuse to stop learning. And St. Basil's quote is saying, the earth itself, if the earth can produce fruit that's useful for man, how much more are we who have brains supposed to bear fruit, even with AI? So some things to keep in mind. So at this point, I'll hand it over to Sumod.
Thank you, Jimmy, for giving that intro into and then talking about the basics. So let's get into some demo of AI. So how can a beginner get into AI? So let me start with saying there are many tools available. Jimmy already mentioned that and more tools are coming as we speak. But let's start with something simple, something easily accessible, and then something everybody can relate to. So everybody's so used to Gmail, and we will be using one of the, Gmail is a Google product. Google has other products. Gemini is one of them. So let's get into Gemini and start using it. So if you go to Google or once you log in Gmail, you can see a bunch of dots on the right side. Click on that. You can see many of those other Google products here. So many of the things that we are so used to. Google Maps, YouTube, Google Photos, Google Meet, and so forth. One of the other option is called Gemini here. So if you click on that, it opens up a new tab and then it takes you to a Gemini. So this is what we are interacting with. So this is our assistant, if you think in that way, right? And then you can put prompt here or instructions here, and then it will show you the outcome. So I have canned a few use cases here. Let me go back to my previous slide. So here you can see, I already talked about it's a free app. And so long as we have a Google account, you have access to Gemini. It's a good beginner tool. We will start with some simple use cases. I will start some simple use cases, generating a letter, itinerary for a trip, summary of a Bible chapter, create quiz from a chapter within the Bible, creating a Malayalam letter, creating a Malayalam poem, and so forth. And um, and then Lisha will um, show some examples of how to create an image and also creating editing the background of a photo or create a video. So we'll start with the simple and get into the more difficult ones later. All right, so going back to the Gemini now. So let's start with the create a simple letter. So I have already typed up the prompts to make it easy to save time. So I have typed up because this is what I'm asking to Gemini to create. create a letter for Chennai consulate. So assume my brother-in-law Suraj John and my sister Suni Suraj is going for going for a visiting visa interview, and then I just wanted to introduce them to the consulate. So many of you may have done this, created it from like, by looking at a template in Google, created it, but this one makes it even more easier, even easier. So here it says create a letter for Chennai consulate to introduce my brother-in-law Suraj John and my sister Suni Suraj, who are going there to get visiting visa to US. They will stay with me for 3 months in the following address. I just put a fictitious address. All right, and then I'm going to execute this by clicking on this button. And now the system is creating that letter. So you can see in a few seconds, it already created the letter. So it shows like, you can put your full name, address, and then date. And then from that point on, a lot of this information is already there. So even the address for Chennai consulate, like Gemini Circle, Chennai, and letter of introduction, dear visa officer, I'm writing this letter to formally introduce blah blah blah, right? And it goes all the way like, and then only thing we need to do is like, put your name and just uh, go through to make sure everything is fine. So I'm looking through this one. I'm thinking perhaps I can even make it better. So that's a good thing about the prompting here, right? This is not a one-time thing. So this is in one session we are saying, okay, create this letter, and then you can constantly, iteratively add more stuff to that. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to say update the above letter to include places they will visit in the US. Just put New York, Philadelphia, DC, etc. So I'm going to say, so I'm not satisfied with the initial iteration. I am prompting the system to do more. So that is what is happening right now. So I just put that and then click on execute. And you can see on the right side, the changes are already made. So you can see the system has already made changes. You can see here, blah blah blah. During their visit, intend to explore various cities, including New York, Philadelphia, Washington D.C., in addition to residing with me at my residence. So that is, with a one, just putting a couple of prompts, we made that letter even better. I'm going to say like, now, we can, what I have demonstrated is I can add more content to an existing letter, right? Now I can actually change the tone of the letter. I'm going to just, put another prompt to say, please make this letter sound official and formal. So we can actually say make it more casual, formal, semi-formal, whatever, right? And then it is going to make those changes immediately as well. So this is like now you can see some of the wordings have changed, and then the tone of that conversation is slightly like in a more formal. So that is first example of how we can use Gemini, or like any AI for that matter, Chat GPT, or even in other application, other AI assistants like um, um, the Microsoft and in other Grok, even WhatsApp has some of this AI built in. So concept is the same. You know, put a prompt, you'll get an output, and then you can review the output and then improve the output by adding more prompts. So that is one demo of um, a simple creation of a letter. So we'll pause it for a second, and then we'll open it up for maybe a couple of questions here, and then um, answer or cover if there is any open questions at this time. Those who are on the call, if you have a question, you can unmute and then ask the question, or you can put your question in the chat.
എന്തെങ്കിലും ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് മലയാളത്തിലുണ്ടെങ്കിലും ചോദിക്കാവുന്നതാണ്. ഞങ്ങളെല്ലാം മലയാളം സംസാരിക്കുന്നവരാണ്.
മലയാളത്തിൽ
മലയാളത്തിൽ ചോദിക്കാം ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് എന്തെങ്കിലും ഉണ്ടെങ്കിൽ. അല്ലെങ്കിൽ അവിടെ മെസ്സേജ് ഇട്ടാൽ മതി, ഞങ്ങളത് ആൻസർ ചെയ്യുന്ന.
ഓക്കെ, നമുക്ക് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. അങ്ങനെയാണെങ്കിൽ നമുക്ക് നെക്സ്റ്റ് യൂസ് കേസ് കവർ ചെയ്യാം. ഓക്കെ, let me go back to the screen. So what I'm going to do is another, start another prompt. So I'm going to go here in a new chat. So that is going to start another conversation with my assistant. So here what I'm going to do is, let's create a, itinerary for a trip to Seattle. So I'm going to, we all go for vacation. And this is, we had to do a lot of research to create an itinerary, right? Like we need to go to Google, we need to find out so many things, like put together something. So here I'm putting like create a tour plan for Seattle for July and July 2nd, staying in Hyatt Regency Seattle, can start with a light breakfast and need to include lunch and dinner. So I'm just saying make a plan for 2 days, July 1st and July 2nd. So let's like run this and see what happens. Yeah, it took a few seconds and then it's collated a lot of information for us. So you can see, um, and it gives you like in a hotel, it even like, gives you information that are, I did not even ask about, like weather expectations. Okay, it's going to be in mid 70s so that like, you can dress appropriately. Occasional brief showers are possible, blah, blah, blah. So, you pack accordingly. And then here, two days of plan, right? It shows you like, all the things here that you can do in 2 days. So it's same, you can do this for 4 days, 5 days, whatever that prompt is. Gemini is going to create a content for you. So here you can see tips for Seattle trip. What is the transportation, what is the city pass, reservations, what are the things that can run out, and need for wearing comfortable shoes since you are going to walk a lot, stay hydrated, so all those things. So but I'm just thinking like I'm not too satisfied with it. I'm going to say, it says walk for 20-30 minutes. So I'm going to say like add taxi or Uber where it makes sense. So the system is going to like take that prompt and adjust the plan accordingly. So instead of like um, you know walk for 20 minutes, in this case it will say take Uber, or Uber to go to the place. So that is what it is. Or like consider taxi, Uber, if you prefer not walk, or take monorail. And so I'm going to say, I'm not fully satisfied, so I want to go and see the flight museum. So because flight museum is not in the initial list of things to do, so I'm going to say add flight museum. So now the system is working to incorporate, some of my requests, which is flight museum, like an add taxi, all those things to the plan. So it immediately made the plan and then adjusted all other things that you know that initially recommended, and then
The Indian
showed us the plan.
restaurant talk. Indian restaurant.
Yeah, let's do that. Okay. Can you please can you include Indian restaurant in the plan? Yeah. Let's see what they say. Yeah, so it shows some of the Indian restaurants in the list, and then so it updates the plan to like have that added. So here, um, on lunch, then let me see if where did you? Okay, so you can see the dinner 6:30 to 8 Indian dinner at Mint Progressive Indian Restaurant. So and then it shows you what are the things that are available, yeah, and then also giving me alternate options like, okay, instead of going to Mint Indian, I can go to Saffron Spice. So yep. And then let me see if there is any other one. Yeah, okay. So they included one. So you can actually be more specific. Add Indian for lunch, or add Indian for dinner. Add Szechuan for dinner, and so forth. Um, and also I'm just like okay. I'm adding another iconic Seattle one here. I'm going to say include visiting the first Starbucks store to the plan. So you could go in the morning, have coffee in at the first ever Starbucks. So you get my point that you can actually have that conversation. It's not like one time thing. You can see the output, as Sachin said, like you can have that constant conversation till you are satisfied, and then the system is going to assist you. So the total planning this would have taken a good 2 to 3 hours to put together. Now we were able to do that in a few minutes, in fact. I will pause here and then um, open up for any questions if you have any.
You can type your question in the chat box.
Sumod,
Yep.
can it create a ideal travel plan when you are in Washington?
So that again, the travel plan for Washington?
Yeah,
Yeah.
state. I'm saying Seattle. Yeah.
Oh yeah, absolutely. So you want to create a travel plan for visiting the state of Washington, right? The state of
Right.
Washington, for say I'm going to say 7 days. Okay.
Right.
Okay. We'll be flying in. I'm just adding some data here. We'll be flying in and out of Seattle Airport. Seattle Airport. Then you would like to see all iconic tourist spots in Seattle, in the state. Then I'm going to say would like to spend some time. Would like to spend time. Um, um, spend time enjoying nature
Orthodox Church.
and visiting Indian Indian Orthodox Church. Indian Orthodox Church. Church in Seattle. Church. Let's see what it comes back with. So it's putting together a plan. Yeah, it took a few seconds. Now we have the plan. So here, day one, it shows you what are the things we can do in Seattle. Then go to day two, go to Mount Rainier National Park, which is a great place to explore. And then day three, Olympic National Park, mountains and Lake Crescent, rainforest and Pacific Coast National Park. North Cascade National Park, and return to Seattle area, and then Indian Orthodox Church visit. And then let's see. So here, it seems like, oh yeah, there is some reference to Malankara Orthodox Church here, with the church primarily in other states. Some exist in. Yeah, so it couldn't find, but with the appropriate prompt, we may be able to add that into our itinerary.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Any other questions?
മോനെ നമ്മുടെ ബെൻസേലം ചർച്ച് ഇതിനകത്തുണ്ടോ നോക്കി ജെമിനിയിൽ.
Okay, let's try that one. So let's see. Plan a trip to Philadelphia, right? And to visit all Indian Orthodox churches under the Northeast Diocese. Will be visiting. The more specific you ask, it will be the output will be better. Visiting, say June 29th and 30th. June 30th. Well, let's see what it comes back with. Yes, so let's see. So they have Indian Orthodox churches, St. Gregorius Orthodox Church. Yeah, we have the number 2 in the list. And then
ഫോൺ നമ്പർ മാത്രം വ്യത്യാസമുണ്ട്.
yeah, I think it's pulling from somewhere. Maybe is it our number? 215-639-1113. Okay. Okay. Maybe it's
സുമോദെ,
pulling.
നമ്മൾ ഈ വർഷം ബാത്റൂം പണിയുമെന്ന് വല്ലതും കാണിക്കുന്നുണ്ടോ? ദിസ് ഇയർ
I will skip that question. I don't think that is a public information, so I don't think AI can pull that information.
So the phone number is not ours.
Yeah,
എനിക്ക് എന്താ അറിയത്തില്ല, എവിടെന്ന് അവർ പുള്ളി ചെയ്തേൽ അറിയത്തില്ല. We don't
yeah,
know.
yeah. I think it's good to get this taken care of. Maybe we'll let Manoj Chako know. So maybe it's somewhere. That's why it's pulling it here.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. I'll go to the maybe another use case here. Here create a summary of gospel with St. Matthew's chapter 5. So I'm going to create that real quick. A new chat, so I can go here and then summarize gospel. So if you're trying to learn something, instead of reading the whole, or maybe before reading the whole chapter, maybe the beginning of the, or get a summary, then you get into the details. So this is going to give you a good summary of the chapter, St. Matthew chapter 5, it's the Beatitudes, salt and light, the teaching, the different teachings, and then love for enemies and so forth. And also we can use it for, if there are questions, I mean, if you're learning for quiz, we can actually use it for that purpose as well. I'm going to say, here, create a quiz questions and answers from St. Matthew chapter 5, create 10 questions. So let's see, okay, so it already created, see, this 10 questions. And then, we can use it for if you're studying for a quiz competition or something, this will be a very useful.
I want questions from 1 Samuel.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Let's do that. So create, how many questions do you want?
10.
Okay. Create 10 quiz questions.
1 Samuel 1 to 5.
Questions from 1 Samuel.
Chapter 1 to 5.
There's 1 through 5.
It's thinking.
Yeah, it's thinking. It's sometimes it takes a little bit of time. Yep. So here,
Here we go.
yeah, here we go. And then it shows all the questions, and then it shows a hint. So, and then
Take a picture so I can do it.
yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And also it gives you the quiz and answer key. So whatever you are trying to get the information, you can get it from this assistant. And one of the questions that we all ponder, can it create a Malayalam letter, right? So let's create a Malayalam letter. So I'm going to create a Malayalam letter here, introducing Jimmy to our Chief Minister of Kerala. So so let's see how that comes out. And then I'm going to, so you can see the Malayalam letter already here. പ്രിയപ്പെട്ട ബഹുമാനപ്പെട്ട മുഖ്യമന്ത്രിക്ക് ഞാൻ താങ്കൾക്ക് എൻ്റെ സുഹൃത്ത് ജിമ്മിയെ പരിചയപ്പെടുത്തുവാൻ ആഗ്രഹിക്കുന്നു. So it gives you a bunch of information, and I'm going to add more to this one. Let's see, to make that letter better. I'm going to say here, add that Jimmy is interested in investing in AI technology in Kerala and can possibly create job opportunities for youth. So now it is creating that. So here, it says, Jimmy, artificial intelligence സാങ്കേതികവിദ്യയിൽ കേരളത്തിൽ നിക്ഷേപം നടത്താൻ താല്പര്യമുള്ള ഒരു പ്രഗത്ഭനായ സംരംഭകനാണ്. യുവജനങ്ങൾക്ക് തൊഴിലവസരം സൃഷ്ടിക്കുന്നതിൽ അദ്ദേഹം അതീവ ശ്രദ്ധാലുവാണ്. സംസ്ഥാനത്തിന്റെ വികസനവുമായി ബന്ധപ്പെട്ട് ഈ മേഖലയിലെ തന്റെ ആശയങ്ങൾ താങ്കളുമായി പങ്കുവെക്കാൻ അദ്ദേഹത്തിന് താല്പര്യമുണ്ട്. So the whole thing is created in Malayalam as well. So not only in English, we can actually create letters in Malayalam. So I'll pause here and then take some questions.
Sgmoc.
Mm-hmm.
If I think maybe another practical thing, if we can show a calendar, a personalized calendar with what do you do what do you need to be reminded every day or something like that.
Okay, yeah. I don't have the prompts set up for that, Andy. What I will do, I'll prep that when I send out the notes. Is that okay?
I think
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
use
I'm just giving
calendar.
for maybe next time.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so let's see. I think I'll create one more and then I'll hand it over um, to Alicia for more complex ones. So I'm going to create one more fun one, like if you're if you want to create a Vallankali part or something. So I'm going to say create a song in Malayalam from the tune of Vallankali. Should get the content from the Gospel of Saint John. The chorus should be and then let's see what it comes up with. So yeah, it does something, so I don't know if I could completely have the same rhythm and everything, but it created the song in no time. So maybe we add more prompts and then you can make it better. And also I just wanted to see if I could make this into create a Malayalam song in the tune of Rasputin Boney M. Lyrics should be sourced from Gospel of Saint John, and then yeah, it created that. So yeah, every time you try this, it comes up with a different chorus. Those who know Rasputin, I think yeah, you can sing that. Okay, I think that covers most of the prompts that I have prepared. So I'll hand it over to Alicia so she can get into more complex use cases. Thanks, everyone.
Yep, thank you. All right, I'll share my screen now. I thought I would just start with a couple of tips, just overviewing some of the things that you've already seen. So it's a couple of examples. For example, something that you shouldn't do with AI is...
Are you sharing, Alicia?
Can you see it?
Oh, yeah, I think.
So
Yeah, got it. I think I got it. Thanks.
Okay. Yeah, so this is an example of what not to do with AI. Saying something like, tell me about space. Instead, what you could do is say something like, explain the solar system to a 10-year-old in 3 sentences. And the reason that this is better is because it's more specific. Like you've already heard a couple of the examples before, it gives more instructions on topic, tone, length, audience, and it gives AI more direction on what to do. Another tip, you don't want to say something like, give me some workout advice. It'll still give you answers, but it might not be as specific as you'd like. So instead of that, you could say something like telling AI, act as a personal trainer, and then give me some beginner workout tips for someone that's out of shape. So giving AI a role to play, it usually helps because it'll respond as that role instead of just giving you random facts. Another example, saying something like, what is a black hole? Again, it'll give you answers, but if you want to be more specific, saying something like, explain what a black hole is, using only simple words and no more than 50 words. So adding some constraints can help it also tailor the answer the way that you want it to look. Another example, yeah, so you don't want to just accept the first response if it doesn't match the tone or audience that you're looking for. And you saw a couple of examples with this. Instead, when AI gives you an answer, you can respond back to it by saying something like, that's too technical, or maybe that's too simple. Can you make it harder? Can you make it easier, more friendly, whatever it is? So the tip there is to refine iteratively. You can always ask follow-up questions. You guys saw a bunch of examples of that just a little bit ago. So you want to improve and adjust the answer that AI is giving you with questions. And then the last tip, again, this is really vague. You don't want to just say party themes or give me party themes. You can say something instead, like, I'm planning a party for teenagers. Can you give me 3 fun theme ideas? And the reason this is better is because it's conversational. So this is pretty similar to some of the other examples that you've seen. It allows AI to act as a partner. So you can talk to it as if you're talking to another person, and it'll respond back with hopefully more helpful information. Yeah, so that was just a little overview or recap of what you've already seen, but I'll show you some new things now, making some images and videos. I'll start with images made with Google Gemini. So I put in a couple prompts and I just wanted to give some examples about like the clarity that you can get with generative AI images. So it can make hyper realistic photos like these. You might still be able to tell that something might look a little fake, but the clarity in these videos or in these pictures is sometimes really indistinguishable from what's real or fake. Like this photo, for example, if you saw it on Instagram or something, it might be difficult to tell, is this real or is this not? But then there might be photos that are a little more obvious, like this one. It's got a lot of clarity, but maybe you can still tell that it's not real. So I thought for this next section, if everyone is able to open up this website, feel free to try following along. We'll switch from Gemini, which is an AI platform, to ChatGPT. That's a different AI platform, just so you can get some exposure on different softwares. So this one, you can go to chat.openai.com, and you can follow along with a couple prompts that I have. So I've taken screenshots of the prompts because when you're creating images and videos with AI, it takes extra time to generate. It won't be as quick as the examples that you saw earlier with just text, because it takes a lot more effort, a lot more processing power to create these. So just for the sake of time, I've screenshotted the results that I got when I put these prompts in, but feel free to follow along. So the prompt that I put in was create a short animated cartoon video, should say image, of a cat chasing a dog in a park. So you can say a short animated cartoon image. And then I got back a response that asked me if I want to put in some more details, if I want to put myself in the image, if I want to put someone else in the image. I didn't want to do any of that. Then it gave me a couple of style options. It said, do I want the image to be cute and colorful, silly and exaggerated, or more storybook style? So I decided that I wanted it to be silly and exaggerated. So I responded back to this prompt saying I want it to be silly and exaggerated. So the picture that it came up with was this one, which is pretty good. I asked for a cat chasing a dog in a park, and that's pretty much what it gave me. But like we had talked about earlier, we can always respond and ask it to change things, refine iteratively. So I asked it to change the image so that the dog is white and the cat is happy. So if you're following along, feel free to put your own spin on that. You can ask it to generate a different image with different changes. So this is what it came back with, and it's exactly what I asked for. So let me pause there. Any questions on how to create images with ChatGPT? It's the same process with Gemini. You can use these same exact prompts. Yeah. Any questions in the chat or unmute? And you can get pretty detailed, pretty specific with these images too. The prompt that I gave was very simple. It was just a cat chasing a dog, but you can really describe maybe the setting or the cat, the dog. You can add as much detail as you want to make the image clearer and more specific to what you want. So that's always there, but this is just an easy example. All right. I assume there's no questions. So I'll continue on. The next thing I wanted to show was the ability to edit backgrounds in your images. So sometimes you have an image, but the background maybe is something that you want to make more artificially like changed. And I have an example of that. So this is a photo that I took with my now husband. We dressed up as characters from the movie Avatar, but as you can tell, we're just in the middle of a park. So we look in character, but the background doesn't really match. So there's a tool called background generator, and it's with a platform called Canva AI. So this is what the tool button looks like in Canva AI. And it allows you to describe a background and replace the original one. So when you go to the tool, this is what it'll show. It'll say describe a new background, and you can type as much detail as you want, describing what you want it to look like. So for the purposes of the photo that we just saw, I want to create a background that looks something like this. So this is a scene from the movie of the characters that we dressed up as. So in order to describe this, I wrote up a prompt, and I tried to use as much detailed descriptive words as possible. So I'm not going to read through all this, but I'm basically saying that I want, big trees and mountains and waterfalls and plants that light up and, all that. Trying to describe the photo that I have in my head. And then once I put that in to the background generator, this was the result that we got. So this is pretty close to the original image that I had in my head, just with the description that I gave. So just wanted to make that aware that this is an option too. One caveat, Canva AI is a paid platform. So I have a subscription, so I'm able to use it. If you don't have a subscription, you might not be able to use that. But there might be other tools out there that have similar functionality online that you could find too. So this one's just a very advanced one that gives nice clarity to the backgrounds. So I'll pause there again. Let me know if there's any questions. I'm not looking at the chat either, so if anything comes up, let me know. Okay, cool. Let me continue. So the next section.
Alicia, I think there is one question from Filipos Chaco. What does clicking the show thinking button do?
Show thinking button.
Maybe it's at 8:38, so maybe it's an older question. Anybody? I mean, is Filipos Chaco on the call?
Go back. I don't think that was from my slides, but I think I might know.
That was in the previous slide while.
Oh, okay, that is from Gemini. Okay.
So it actually was just saying while it was doing the thinking, it showed that message there.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. So maybe it is taking processing the prompts and then creating the output. Is that okay? Perhaps okay.
And I think while it was being generated, some of the thoughts were already there because it was finalizing that Washington plan. Meanwhile, it suggested like there are Indian restaurants there and things like that.
Got it. Okay.
I think we can see what they're thinking.
I think if you click on that button, it technically shows all the sources where it's trying to get the information from.
Yep. Yeah, I don't think I see that very often with ChatGPT or even Canva AI, but with Gemini, I guess that's a feature that's there to show the thinking. So cool. All right, let me continue here. My next section was to just showcase some video capabilities with AI. So I'll use two different platforms for this. Canva AI, that's one that I've used previously many times. And then a newer one that I wasn't as familiar with, but I've used a little bit now, and that's called Google Veo. So I'll show you both, starting with Canva AI. Canva is nice for like easy videos without too many details. You can add more details, but I think it's a user-friendly platform. So I just gave a really simple prompt, similar to the image one. So same thing, create a short animated cartoon video of a cat chasing a dog in a park. And Canva actually took a full 2 minutes for this, which seems like a long time, but if you were to actually animate this on your own, it would take much longer. So it's still saving a lot of time. There's the video. Yeah, it's nothing crazy, just a couple seconds long, but it got the prompt that I wanted. It has nice clarity to the photos. It's the cartoon style that I asked for. Yeah. With Canva AI, the video generation, I'd say it's still pretty new. So the functionality isn't always as predictable as you would like. So when I take this video and I ask it to change a couple of things, like we did in ChatGPT, I asked it to change the dog into a golden retriever. You'll notice that it did change the dog into a golden retriever, but some of the details of the video changed. So I'll show you that. So hopefully everyone saw that. I think it glitched for a second, but basically the dog is a golden retriever, but the cat is not chasing the dog, and somehow a second dog showed up out of nowhere that seemed to morph from a different animal. So there's a lot going on, and it feels very experimental. So I wouldn't use this for creating, very detailed videos or anything. I would keep the prompts very simple. Trying to iterate changes with this might not always be perfect, but it's worth experimenting. So yeah, this is with Canva AI with some easy prompts. But I will show a couple of more complex AI prompts now using Google VO. Google VO allows for a lot more intense processing with their videos, so you can include a lot more detail, and the result videos are like ultra clear. So some of the videos that were sent out on WhatsApp highlighting or advertising this session today was made with Google VO. And I'll show you the prompts that I used to create that. So this was the first one. So I won't read through all this because obviously there's a bunch of detail that I'm putting in to make sure that Google VO knows how to make this as sharp and crystal clear as possible. But I'll highlight a couple of the keywords that I'm using to make sure that this video is like as detailed as possible. So I mentioned that it's a South Indian man. I mentioned how he's dressed, the type of music in the background. I talked about how I want the camera to move. I mentioned the exact dialogue that I want him to say. And yeah, just a couple of the other details. It's all in there. So this is a more complex, I'd say, prompt. And even then, I'm not an expert. So this is probably not as complex as it could get. You can definitely do way more. But I'll show you the result video that came out of this.
Hi, St. Glorious family. Join us to learn about AI tonight on Zoom at 8 p.m. EST. And by the way, I'm not real. I was made with AI.
So yeah, with the prompt that I gave earlier, this pretty much captured everything. It got the age range, it got his ethnicity, it got the skyline of Philadelphia, his dressing, and I didn't hear too much music, so maybe that part it missed, but dialogue, it got everything. Yeah, so that's why it showed up that clear.
How long did it take, Alicia, to create this one?
I'd say it took like 4 to 5 minutes.
Okay.
To fully process, yeah. So still not as long as it would take to hire an actual person and go to the skyline in Philadelphia and film everything. And this guy looks pretty real. I think that's the facial structure, the sunlight hitting his face, like all the details captured very nicely. So that kind of highlights some of the capabilities with AI and videos. I'll show one more. This was the other I guess trailer that we made for this session. So I'll show the trailer first, and then I'll show you the prompt that went behind this.
ಸ್ನೇಹಿತರಾಯ ಸೆಂಟ್ ಗ್ರೆಗರಿಯಸ್ ಕುದುಂಬಮೆ ಇನ್ನತೆ ರಾತ್ರಿ ಎತ್ತು ಮನಿಕ್ಕು ಝೂಮಿಲ್ ನದಕ್ಕುನ್ನ AI ಸೆಷನ್ ಇಲ್ ಜಂಗಲೋ ದೊಪ್ಪಂ ಚೆರು.
So yeah, that was another version. The Malayalam is a little rough, but it's there. So I'll show you the prompt that I used for that one. Maybe I can play it one more time because it's very quick. It's just 8 seconds.
സ്നേഹിതരായ സെന്റ് ഗ്രെഗറിയോസ് കുടുംബമേ, ഇന്നത്തെ രാത്രി 8 മണിക്ക് സൂമിൽ നടക്കുന്ന AI സെഷനിൽ ഞങ്ങളോടൊപ്പം ചേരൂ.
Cool. All right, so let me show you the prompt. Okay, so again, it's very detailed, and I'll just highlight a couple of the key points that I used to make this as detailed as possible. And I'll also show you some of the limitations that this tool has. So I mentioned that it's a Malayali man, early 60s this time. And one note that I'll put here, I initially was asked to make this Mohanlal, and I did try, but with Google Veo, and I'm sure most AI video softwares tools, it won't allow you to use prominent figures because that's a privacy issue, and yeah, it puts them at risk. So you can't make fake videos like that. So I wasn't able to use him. So I just picked a random Malayali man now in his early 60s. And then I gave a couple more details, like how he's dressed, how I want the camera to move. And I tried to initially put Malayalam, like the actual letters of Malayalam, but foreign languages are not supported with Google Veo. So then I asked ChatGPT to write it in English for me, and then I put it in here. So that's my butchered version of Manglish. Yeah, and then if you remember the video, this is pretty much where it ended. But in the prompt, I did ask it to say one more thing. I wanted him to say that, oh, I'm not real though. I was made with AI. But with Google Veo, there's a limit. The clips are limited to 8 seconds. So it tried to fit in as much detail as it could within those 8 seconds, but you can see the last part of my prompt, it left that out. So that's what happened there. But yeah, I have 2 more example videos. I didn't make these, but they are examples of like way more complex prompts that were put in to create something that's very detailed and feels very real. But before I jump into those, let me ask if there's any questions, thoughts, anything that's surprising from seeing this. Okay, here's someone. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I think it's a really cool feature. Again, Mohanlal would have been nice, but we did our best. Yeah, so let me show you 2 more videos. You might have seen some of these on Instagram. I think they're pretty viral now, but I'll play these for you. And just keep in mind, this is all fake.
ഹലോ ഗൈസ്, നമ്മൾ ഇന്ന് സ്കൂളിലോട്ട് പോവാണ്. 14 മൈൽ അപ്പുറയാണ് നമ്മുടെ സ്കൂള്. അപ്പൊ 6 മണിക്കേലും ഇറങ്ങിയാലേ 9 മണിക്ക് സ്കൂളിലെത്തും. ഗൈസ്, നമ്മൾ കല്ലും മുള്ളുമുള്ള 5 മൈൽ നടന്നു വന്നു. ഇനി ആ കാണുന്ന പുഴ കൂടെ നീന്തി കിടക്കണം.
ഇന്ന് നല്ല അടിയൊഴുക്കുണ്ടെന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. ഇനി ആ കാണുന്ന വലിയ മല കേറി ഇറങ്ങിയ സ്കൂളെത്തും.
മല കയറിയപ്പോ കിട്ടിയ മാങ്ങയാണ്. നല്ല പുളിയുണ്ട്. ഇനി ഒരു 2 മൈൽ കൂടി. മഴ ചതിച്ച് ഗൈസ്, ഇന്ന് നല്ലപോലെ താമസിച്ചു. മാഷിന്ന് കൊല്ലും. അപ്പൊ വൈകിട്ട് കാണാം. ബൈ.
So yeah, very detailed, lots of different clips. And it feels real. Every single one of those frames by itself, it has so much detail. The pronunciation is perfect, facial expressions, the weather, the background characters, everyone's, in sync. So it's very, very detailed. I'll show one more. So this one feels very real, and all the details feel very, very real too. This other example, I think it feels real, but it's obviously fake. So another example.
കണ്ടില്ലേ, ഇതാണ് എൻ്റെ ഡ്രാഗൺ കുഞ്ഞ്. എൻ്റെ ചേച്ചിക്ക് കൊണ്ടുവരണം. ഹായ്. ഞാനാണ് അവളുടെ ചേച്ചി. ഇതാണ് എന്റെ ഡ്രാഗൺ. കേരളത്തിലെ അമ്മമാർക്ക് ഒരു ജീവിയെയും പേടിയില്ല. മോനെ ബ്രൂണോ,
അമ്മയ്ക്ക് പൂത്തു നടത്താൻ പൈക്കളുണ്ട്. കരയ്ക്ക് കടത്തിനൊരമ്പിളിത്തോണിയുണ്ട്. വീടേ വീടെന്ന് മൊഴിയിൽ നാടേ നാടെന്ന്.
മോനെ രാജു.
So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed those. These are some funny examples that really highlights the capability and power of AI videos. So yeah, I think that's everything that I had. So I'll hand it back. Thank you.
Yeah, so the question, like, we are always asking, so what, right? Okay, AI is coming, AI is kind of like, now we can do a bunch of things in AI, so what, right? So, why did we have this, session today? Because we believe that, we are at that inflection point that, this is going to take off in a very meaningful way in the next, few years. And then it's it's like, computers coming in, or like, our, smartphones coming in, and changing our lives, right? Maybe those changes on steroid probably would be what AI could bring in the next few years. So we have the right, we have the capability to process a lot of data. We have the right processors available, computers available, the data available. So this is the right time, and it's from a industry standpoint, we are at the inflection point. So might as well we all be part of the change, rather than like be afraid of the change. So that is why we have this session. Maybe it's time to get used to it. Let's start start using them for our day-to-day purposes. It will make the life so much easier. And okay. And also, one thing is very clear, right? AI will be a huge disruptor, right? Things are going to change. The tools that we thought was needed in the past may go away, and AI may take over. Some of the jobs may go away, but some of the new jobs may be created because of all the changes coming in. So I just wanted to say, a big wave of changes are coming. Be prepared, be mentally prepared, and try to be ahead of it if possible. And that applies to everybody, including me. And then for our beginners, I just do a shameless plug in here. St. Joseph Forum, Men's Forum will be organizing an in-person hands-on training at church if there is sufficient interest. So we all can come together with your laptops and then play around, and then spend 2 to 3 hours learning it. So if there is enough interest, we can always arrange that. Let me see. Okay, let's go to the next slide, Alicia. Okay, I think that's all we have. Thank you for the opportunity to present, and we'll open up for any questions at this time. Those who couldn't answer anything, couldn't ask questions before, if you have any questions, please unmute and ask.
This is Morsi. I have a question for Alicia.
Yep.
Alicia, those last 2 videos looked so real. Any tips to identify AI generated videos?
Yeah, that is a tough one. Sometimes it is hard to tell. I know there are some softwares out there, some online tools where you can upload these videos or put a link to these videos, and it'll try to detect if it is real or fake. I know sometimes with some of these platforms, when it creates videos, there's not all of them, and I'm not sure which ones, but there's an invisible watermark that marks it as AI generated versus not just real videos. So yeah, from our point of view, it might be really hard to tell. Like that second video with the amachis, that's obviously fake, but the first one, going to school, that's kind of hard to tell. Yeah, so no definitive answer, which is why we have to be careful with how we use these imaging and video functionalities too.
Thank you, Alicia.
Yep. Any other questions?
Perhaps just a note, that's a good point to note, that many of the things that we see online may not be real. So don't base your life based on these things that we see online.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, this opens up opportunities for, persuading us in one way or other, right? Using deep fake videos. I mean, we are easily persuadable even with videos or pictures presented in a certain way. This gives, more opportunities for those who want to persuade you in one way or other, by having videos that looks very very real, scary things, scary situations. But so be very mindful that that is a real possibility. And so is like scammers, right? For any technology, like scammers will get used, get hold of it, and then try to use it for like maybe pretending that somebody's calling you, in their voice. At that in the last knowledge session, Reggie already talked about that, right? That there is possibility that some of these calls that you may get sounding like maybe Shibochan, but calling for help, but it may not be Shibochan. So be mindful moving forward. So. അച്ഛാ എനിക്ക് തോന്നുന്നു ആൾക്കാർക്ക് ക്വസ്റ്റ്യൻസ് ഒന്നും ഇല്ലാന്ന് തോന്നുന്നു. So maybe we can.
It's only already time is 9:10. So thank you.
I want to say thanks to thank you to Sumod, Jimmy, and Alicia for the insightful presentation on AI for beginners. Your expertise and the effort in preparing and delivering this session are truly appreciated. Great job making complex concept accessible. Looking forward to more sessions like this. Thank you so much, especially Sumod, for leading the session. We had several meetings before this presentation, and you guys did a wonderful job. And it's not the last meeting that we are going to see, on this kind of information and knowledge sessions. That you're going to have more knowledge sessions in the future by our St. Joseph Forum, formerly called Men's Forum. I really appreciate the leaders for putting this together. And thank you so much. If you have any questions, these are the people that you can go to. Of course, we have another meeting coming up. Our in-person meeting is coming up actually for the St. Joseph Forum on the 29th, actually next Sunday. So please plan to attend, all the Men's Forum members. We can maybe
Okay. Thank you all. Thank you for this knowledge session. Thank you, St. Joseph Forum. Thank you, the presenters, and thank you all the participants. It was a wonderful session. I will continue this kind of knowledge sessions in the future. So every creativity is from God, from the Holy Spirit. But God has given us the discernment, whether it is false or good or no, bad or false, or it is a true. So use your discernment, Holy Spirit. At the same time, use the creativity of God. Also embrace changes. Thank you all once again. We'll end with a short prayer. Holy Father, guard us by the sacred name, Son of God, our Savior. Protect us with the victorious cross. Holy Spirit, make us for the temples of thy holy habitation. Lord our God, shelter us under the divine wings at all times, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good night.
Bye-bye.